Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we start out with Chris Bishop. He's the president of the Nevada Realtors, and then Lindsay Knox with McDonald Carano. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're pleased to welcome for the first time to Nevada Newsmakers Chris Bishop. He is president of the Nevada Realtors. Pleasure to have you on the program, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So you guys were up in arms over the governor extending the moratorium on evictions for residential for 45 days. But as soon as you were able to be upset about that, the CDC came out and said no evictions till the end of the year. So let's get your response to both of those.
Yeah, you know, we understand that it's from a place of protection for consumers, for people to make sure that they're ensuring they're not getting sick. And so we do understand that. And it's not that we're up in arms, but we're concerned for Nevada homeowners, and we're concerned for the mom and pop investors that this is putting them in a horrible position. They've gone 6 months now without receiving any rental income in most cases. And so you can understand that it's water behind the dam, and the dam's not built very well. And we know that sooner or later, there's going to be a number of issues that this is going to put a strain on the economy, on their personal finances. And so we just want to make sure that it's fair both ways, not only for the protection of tenants, but also for the protection of these homeowners.
All right, so at this, the thing that was interesting about the CDC report was that they were saying that they wanted to have the moratorium based on that if people were evicted, that could therefore cause the spread of COVID. Did that take you by surprise at all?
No, not really. I mean, you've seen a lot of these happen for different reasons. And we kind of felt with the governor's order here in Nevada being to October 15th, you know, it's very close to the holidays. And so it seems like, you know, historically, whenever there's a moratorium on any of these, such as the foreclosure moratorium we saw a number of years back, they seem to, if they're close around that holiday time, they seem to spread further out and, you know, follow into the next year. And so we kind of felt that that was probably going to happen here in Nevada. And then just a day later, the national moratorium came out, and it did take it through the end of the year. So I wasn't surprised at that. I wasn't surprised at the reasoning behind it. I mean, all of these seem to come from a good place. And sooner or later, I mean, this is not free rent. And I think that's something that's a misconception. People are thinking they're not going to have to make the rental payments. I've talked to tenants and said, well, I'll never have to make that payment. The owner will just have to take it. And I think that's a misconception as well. These are done to delay for their health, not to just give them a way out. And what's more concerning is a lot of these programs are there for the benefit to give the tenant subsidies to help them be able to pay their rent, but there's nothing really for that homeowner. There's no ability for that homeowner to help engage with their tenant. I've had homeowners reach out to me and say, can I fill out the paperwork for my tenant to help them get the income so that they can then pay? And so recently when the governor announced his program that we're going to pay owners directly, well, one of the reasons why they were having such an issue is getting the funds from other programs they've already put in place to the people that need it. And so how long is it going to take to get those funds there?
Yeah, and it's interesting, as you say, it's not like this is going to be rent-free. Are you comfortable with where the plans are at this point in terms of the state helping out and the potential when the Congress comes back for the federal government to help out?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm comfortable with any of it. I would prefer, I think everyone would prefer that we start the process of getting people into payment arrangements. I mean, one of the things, for example, was done in our state was that there be a mediation program that would be added in. And that was a concern a little bit that, now we finally have gotten to the point where the people that are concerned, that really have big issues, they're already communicating with their owners and their property managers. They're working out agreements. There are owners that are working agreements with their tenant. So it's not like anything is not happening. It's more the bad apples, the people that are taking advantage of this situation that still have jobs and incomes that are not making any payments because they don't have to. And so our bigger concern is that we've got a number of those people that literally, they should be evicted. And it's not that because of any health reasons or things like that, they're just taking advantage of the situation. And it's a very few amount. I want to make that clear as well. It's not like there are all these people sitting there just taking a free ride. But there are those that literally have taken advantage of the system. And now even then, even if we were going to evict them September 1st, now they're hoping to put in a mediation program that could take a few weeks longer. But it just delays the inevitable. I think the important thing is, if we're going to recover from this pandemic, that it's important that we get back into the process of some normalcy so that everyone knows the rules we're playing by. And all that we're doing is moving the goal line further and further down. And so how far will it go before it's unrecoverable? That's the issue that I'm concerned about.
Okay, and how do you define unrecoverable?
Well, you think about it, and these tenants, they're building up this rental amount. So if you're now, rent stopped in March, and if you're now going to look at January and it takes 30 days to get you out of the property, and now it's February, that's almost 11 months worth of rent. Are you saying that this individual who has lost their job or had a financial issue is going to be able to recover 11 months worth of rent? I mean, that puts them in a massive economic strain on their own personal finances. And now we have a homeowner that's thinking, oh, well, hopefully I'll get that rent back. And if there's no access to these programs that have been put out in front of them, if the program money goes away or it's spent too fast, what are they going to do? I mean, they're looking at a massive amount of money that would be unrecoverable that they're just going to have to either forgive or work out arrangements on. And so I guess the point would be, what do you do in that instance? And if it's not 12 months and it turns into 18 months, that's, it won't be recovered. There's just no way.
All right, so one of the things that was under discussion was taking these late payments and putting them on the end of the mortgages. Is that acceptable to you?
Yeah, I think as long as the parameters make sense and that, for the homeowner, if that's what we're talking about, for their late payments, or are you talking about for the tenant?
Well, it's cause and effect here. I mean, if the tenant is not making the payments, but eventually there's a government subsidy of some kind or another, then the mortgage companies would be able to accept putting it on at the end of the mortgage. By the way, the other one, and we've got about a minute left here, the other one that has been of great concern, not so much in the news, but of great concern, are the mortgage services, because the mortgage services have to pay the owners of those notes no matter what, whether they get paid or not. And so there's danger that they're going to collapse.
Absolutely. It's a ripple effect all the way. And there's not enough money. There's not enough money in these programs to cover everybody. And I think that to understand, it's probably less than 10% of the homeowners out there that are in tenant situations where the tenant's not paying, from most of the property managers I've talked to. But those that aren't, most of the time it's a relocation owner, a mom and pop owner. I've had a lot of active military that own their home and they had to relocate for deployment and different orders and things like that. And so they count on that rent. And so they're eating up savings because they're still making their payment. Some of their servicers have worked with them and they're mortgage companies. And so that has been nice that the state has stepped in and the government has stepped in to help with that. But as long as the relief is equal across the board for everybody, we can make it work. But it seems like a lot of these have been slated towards the tenant and the tenant's issues. And we really need to help those landlords that are wondering how they're going to make these payments as well.
And that's where we got to leave it. Chris, thank you so much for doing this. And we'll come back to you in a couple of weeks and catch up on where we are. Thank you, sir. And we'll be right back.
Things are heating up at the Carson Valley Inn. Win your share of $200,000 through September 26th. Cash and free play every weekend, plus 5 times points Fridays. The good times are at CVI.
Because of UMC, there's a wide open road ahead of me.
Because of UMC, she can grow up with her twin sister.
Because of UMC, I'm here to help you.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Things are heating up at the Carson Valley Inn. Win your share of $200,000 through September 26th. Cash and free play every weekend, plus 5 times points Fridays. The good times are at CVI.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're delighted to welcome back to the program after an absence, but pleasure to have you back, Lindsay Knox. She is Vice President of Government Affairs and Advocacy for McDonald Carano. Pleasure to have you back.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
You are very welcome. In fact, your fan base has been demanding this. So
that's what you said. I'd like to know who this fan base is.
I will wite you a list after the program.
Please do.
So let's start out with healthcare, which is one of your issues. Telemedicine. It seems like it should have been like this for years. I was in San Diego recently, and while sitting in an outdoors cafe, I was able to have a telemedicine conference with my doctor, get a prescription refilled, get my checkup basically done, and instead of having to spend approximately 3 hours between going to and from a doctor's office to make an appointment, get a call back, go sit in the office, suddenly it was 10, 15 minutes and the whole thing was done, including the nurse talking to me. What took us so long?
We didn't have COVID. I think it really, it made us move. It made us look at all of the options we have. You know, one of my clients is Remza, and they do telehealth. And they do that in Tonopah because they don't have a hospital. And they are that direct line to healthcare, and they work with Renown, or did work with Renown on that. And I've seen their telemedicine machine that they have, and we actually toured Senator Catherine Cortez Masto about 1.5 years ago, and she got to see this, and it's amazing what technology does. But we didn't have a need for it other than in rural communities, because we could make that appointment, and we could get to the doctor. But now with things closed down and things kind of moving slowly, we needed that. I mean, every morning I have to click a link to say if I feel okay, and if I don't, I have to set up an appointment with a teledoc, and you know, it's 5-10 minutes, and you either get to go to work or you don't. So I think that it's just, we didn't have the true need for it, and now we do.
All right, so before we get into more details of it, the big question now is, does the federal government allow us to continue telemedicine after COVID the way it's being done now? What's your read on that?
I think that they do. Actually, I spent yesterday on the phone with members of Congressman Amade's office, Congressman Horsford's office, and Senator Rosen's office. And those are conversations that they're having, and they know the importance. And I think they understand the importance here in Nevada. You have a very high underinsured population, and these people need to get to work. And if they can have that 5 to 10 minute call with a doctor, get a prescription filled, they're not missing work, there's no getting fired. I think that the federal government does step up, and I think Nevada can also step up, and we can make sure that our laws are in place where it truly can be a benefit to our constituents.
Are people actively working on this for the 2021 session?
I haven't heard anything yet. It would not surprise me. But we have so many conversations getting ready to start with legislators. I would guarantee somebody's going to pick that up, and I hope they do.
Well, one of the things that is so critical is that we have such a shortage of doctors in every field. PAs are becoming much the norm, and to be honest with you, I love PAs because they don't have to worry about running a business. They're just worried about taking care of your health, and I think that's a huge advance. But it seems like Nevada is the perfect experimental ground, if they need to have an experimental ground, for us to do this, because the need is there.
Absolutely. We are so underserved by physicians here. And the doctor that I talk to when I have to do it for work is from San Diego. So we have now that technology to look outside of this state. But you're right, we do need to get physicians here. And even if we got, a couple hundred more, it would still benefit us. And using telehealth, it just adds more access to care. And that is the big problem we have in the state, is our access to care.
All right, so now let me play devil's advocate and go on the other side of this, which is, a lot of doctors enjoy the sitting down with a patient, having the conversation. They're able to see what's going on with the patient just by observing them in real life and doing the physical checkup. But that person-to-person contact is why a lot of people got into medicine in the first place. Are you hearing concerns from doctors, especially older doctors, about that potentially going away to an extent?
I love older doctors, but the change, it upsets them because they're like, we're getting close to retirement, we have to learn all of these new things. And so I think that there's a place for them. And because I still want to go see my doctor. I want to go in person. I don't want to be over a phone or a computer. I want to physically go to my doctor. And I want to sit and have a conversation with them, and I want them to physically check me. So I think there is a place for them. And as these new classes come through, they can do telehealth, but I think a mix is needed because you're going to want to have both. And again, I have a flexible schedule in my life and can get my kids to the doctor when I need to, or myself, but not everybody can do that. So we have to create options for the people that might not necessarily have that flexibility.
Well, it's an exciting new time, and I think for a place like Nevada that has such a need, it could really be helpful, going well into the future. And it seems like this was on the way, but as you say, COVID happened.
Yeah, it forced its hand on all of us, and it made us look at things that we might be peeking at, but weren't ready to really dive into, and now we have to dive into it.
All right, let's take a break. More with Lindsay Knox when we come back.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Are you a homeowner who's interested in remodeling or building a home? At Design Outdoor, we can show you how adding natural or manufactured masonry stone can add beauty and value to your home. And we refer only the best contractors. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Lindsay Knox. She is Vice President of Government Affairs and Advocacy for McDonald Carano. One of your areas of expertise is the construction industry. And throughout this whole COVID thing, the industry has been blessed. And I think it's an interesting indicator, not only in construction, but in grocery stores, in Costco's, in Home Depot and Lowe's, that we have not seen massive outbreaks of COVID at these areas that are bustling at this point. What do you point to when you look at that?
Well, I think that OSHA's done a fairly good job at making sure that these construction sites are being compliant. If you're not going to be compliant, you're not going to work. And I know that the Builders Association in Northern Nevada and Don Tedro and all the members are taking that very serious. We represent them and we make sure that they have everything up to date, and Don does such a phenomenal job making sure his members know. So I think that's a part of it. And then the Retail Association, they're doing the exact same thing, and they're making sure that their members are compliant. So I think that it's holding people's feet to the fire, and it's also the responsibility of us as patrons to these places to follow the rules. And I think that's another way that they're not having outbreaks. Wear your mask, wash your hands, sanitize, do what you need to do, stay away from people, and I think that's a large part of it. Anytime I've been in Home Depot, Costco, I couldn't ask for a better experience in the times that I have gone. They're very diligent in making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be. So I think that hats off to their managers and to the associations that represent them to make sure that they have all the information that they need.
All right, so then let me play devil's advocate and open up the picture and say, okay, if it is all right for these huge companies, because I mean the people building radio station is not, stadium, is not a small operation. Resorts World is not a small operation. Why can't we do this for small businesses? Because that's the biggest concern right now. And in a lot of cases, it seems like the rulings that are coming out of the governor's office just aren't making sense between, you can go to a place that is a bar, but if you have food, it's okay, but if it's just a bar, it's not okay. A lot of people have concerns about this.
And quite frankly, I do too. I would not want to be in Governor Sisolak's shoes, trying to deal with this. And yes, he can talk to all these other states, but he has to think about what's best for us. And I don't necessarily understand how he comes up with what he comes up with, but at the same time, he's talking to experts, and those are the decisions they're making. I think this is extremely difficult on small business. How many small businesses have we seen close recently and will continue to close, because I don't think we really truly understand the impact yet. I do think that it needs to be reevaluated. Bars need to open, and whether it's smaller or they can do curbside, these places need to be, but you get people that have been drinking a lot, you don't social distance. So I think it's a tough situation.
All right, so opening up another side of this is human nature.
Right.
I mean, I've said on the program several times here that young people are going to congregate, whether it's legal or not. If you don't open a nightclub, if you don't open a bar, somebody's going to go rent a warehouse and put on a rave, and you're going to have something completely uncontrolled. The Washoe County Health District officer, Mr. Dick, said that they should open up the bars, because at least that would be better than having people congregating in their backyards, which was, with no rules and regulations. And yet it was turned down by the governor's task force. Did that surprise you?
That did surprise me, because he's exactly right. I've been to weddings this summer, and people aren't social distancing. It is our human nature to be close to one another, and this has caused such a unique, I think, nightmare for people to not have that closeness. That I think I am surprised at what he said, and I think we need to reevaluate and make sure that people are doing it correctly, and doing it correctly is having that oversight. You can't have oversight in the backyard unless you're going to have cops driving by and closing down parties. And then you're putting law enforcement in a really, really bad position.
And they have no interest in doing this whatsoever.
I believe that, I think I saw an article last week that said that they were going to start closing them down, but they don't want to do that. They want people to get back to some type of normalcy, and not be like, oh, you can't have a party in your backyard. Oh, sorry, it's my first birthday for my little boy. So it's a very tricky situation, but we do have to figure out how we can control the situation, and opening business is how you do that.
And that's where we have to leave it. Thank you so much for coming in. Please come back again soon.
I will,
much
absolutely.
Sooner. Okay.
Yes, sir. Next time you text, I will be here.
Thank you, and we appreciate it, and we'll be right back.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Finish. Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at NevadaNewsmakers.com. We'll see you on the next show.